Aloha, my name is Anna Covert, and I'm coming to you from my battleship here on the beautiful island of Oahu. This week on the Covert Code, the topic is the power of live streaming and brand experience. My special guest is John Petrocelli, the founder and CEO of Bulldog DM, a global leader in live streaming with awards from all over the world. It's very exciting. He is a trailblazer in digital media and has worked with companies including Apple, Netflix, and Coca-Cola, creating groundbreaking live events and really helping shape the future of customer experience. And today he's here to share, his strategies and tips on the future of streaming, what we can expect from, some of these new tools that are out there, how AI is going to change the way we consume content, and overall brand storytelling. So thank you so much for being here today, John.
Thanks, Anna. Great to be here. Happy to have the conversation.
So to kick us off, can you tell us a little bit about your background? How did you come up with this concept of Bulldog DM and get to where you are today, which is incredible?
Thanks. It's been an interesting journey. Today, the company is really the world's most experienced live stream studio. And that really translates to we provide all of the turnkey services and strategies that a client would need to kind of optimize their live streaming or live video strategy. And a client for us could be a brand, an agency, could be a platform, a creator, even a music promoter or a music artist, or, a subset of all, that group of people or those entities all functioning and kind of harmonizing together. And how I got here was I originally was working in Boston in telecommunications and general kind of computing. And I moved out to the West Coast. I wanted to kind of learn the talent agency business and kind of, I wanted to still be in business, but be around kind of a creative environment. And I began, to do that, you have to work in the bowels of Hollywood and theoretically you have to work in the mailroom. And I did at Endeavor, which today is William WME, which is one of the bigger, if not the biggest agency in the market.
Wow.
Yeah, you really learn how a TV show is put together, how a movie is packaged. And then I shifted a little over to a music management company who just had signed the Backstreet Boys at the height of their fame and also represented artists like Ice Cube, Martin Lawrence, Korn.
All names, just kidding.
Yeah. Well, I got this kind of baseline education in Hollywood in how it functions. And it dawned on me that those two, where I could, use my historic background in internet and telecommunications and computing combined with my Hollywood knowledge really was streaming. And I kind of jumped into that space. And at the time, the content community was terrified of what would happen to them given what had happened to music. And they didn't want to go through this piracy challenge. So I was able to kind of articulate, hey, here's what streaming can do for you. Here's how you can reach a bigger audience, but also speak their language and understand what their challenges were. And I got into the space and I worked for a content delivery network, which is really the engine that delivers the video. And we were Switzerland. Back then, there was a thing called the Format Wars, where Microsoft was battling with their Windows Media Player against Apple QuickTime and Real Player.
Odd, because it was before the iPod?
Right around that time, actually.
Okay. Yeah.
I was introduced by Apple. They came to me and said, we love what you do in QuickTime. There's a music artist that would like to do this themselves. Would you entertain a conversation? I said, sure. Who's the artist? And they said it was Prince. And I'm a massive Prince fan. And my work there had really kind of shifted towards anti-piracy content protection because I figured, hey, this content is going everywhere, but it's got to somehow be monetized and protected.
Yes.
And it's hard to explain digital rights management. It still is today.
Yeah.
I took a file of Purple Rain from a file sharing network and I encrypted it and I sent it over to his team. And when you went to play it, it said, you've got to be authorized or be a member of Prince's fan club or pay 99 cents. And I got this email back in the middle of the night that said, Prince says, in quotes, this is exactly what I want to do. I was spelled, EYE, and it was the number 2. He actually, communicated that way.
Wow.
And we struck a deal, and I ended up building really what was the first major music artist that went direct to consumer. And he filled that with audio, video, full length things he had created, clips of him performing live, and people signed up in droves. And then he announced he was going to go on this tour, his comeback tour, and he was going to sell tickets around. It was the symbol in the middle of the arenas that he would play, the best 3, 4, 5,000 seats to his fan club. So we had to build a ticketing system, and I was invited to go see him kind of do some warm-up shows. And that's where it hit me that this is going to be this moment where I can eventually have a shared experience versus me calling my friends and telling them I watched Prince jam with, Alicia Keys or somebody super famous. So that was the first start of that journey. And I was advising a live streaming company, and I took that over. And the minute I took it over, AEG came knocking to buy the company. And AEG is the world's largest presenter of live sports and live music, the number 2 promoter to Live Nation. And the third part of that equation, just as I started that acquisition, I had gone to YouTube and I had said, you should consider live video as a means to bring a connected audience to the show, and then post-event expose them to all those assets. And we did a proof of concept. Really, it was Alicia Keys performing at the AEG venue in New York, brought to the viewer on YouTube by American Express. So it was this journey of really Prince, then being at AEG, and then working with YouTube that kind of got me into this mindset. And on YouTube, we did Coachella, Bonnaroo, Rock in Rio, Lollapalooza, product launches, movie premieres, and it dawned on me that the world was going to be bigger than just AEG or just YouTube. So I spun out of AEG 13 years ago, and I formed this business. I took some key people with me, and really, it's been a fast-paced journey in this market ever since.
Wow, that is a wonderful story. Are you originally from Boston?
I am.
Well, I went to Bentley University.
Oh, yeah.
Ball fan. Yeah, I love that Boston. Actually, especially when I was going to college there, we didn't have smartphones, so you had to get MapQuest, and so I've been lost in Boston more than anyone could ever be lost anywhere.
Very easy place to get lost in.
It's like, where am I? It was right during the Big Dig, and so it was very exciting times. But that's a really fascinating story. Now, tell me, so with all these other platforms, like the YouTubes and like all these other options, the hosting of this content, like how is that being managed so they can be monetized? You have your own framework?
So we act largely as an agency. So when we go to work with a company like, AT&T, for example, we are powering their experience. A lot of this is based on amplification. So experiential marketing obviously is a big strategy today, given that brands want to connect with younger consumers who are really kind of fueling this experience economy. So we, as their partner, will go to their experiences, and let's say they're a partner to the NBA, for example. So they will own and produce and enable the concert, the pregame NBA concert at the NBA Fan Fest. So we're brought in to power, produce, and execute that experience. And they'll tell us, this show we want to be on our YouTube channel, on Instagram. They commissioned us also to build them a microsite where you could watch the concerts in a 5G kind of environment and switch your camera perspective. And also, a lot of times it's the talent. They might say, we'd want to broadcast this. We've done a show for them, I think, with, for instance, Megan Thee Stallion, and it'll carry the live stream on Megan's channel. So we're active on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and TikTok, probably multiple times a month, given who our customers are. And we can also build bespoke microsites, and we can also syndicate the video.
What
So
about
we can drive it across the what?
the metaverse? Are you doing anything there? I mean, and now I got my first pair of Meta
Yeah.
goggles, and there's some of these really amazing, interactive shows where you can literally feel like you're at the concert, and I think it's a small audience now, but what are your feelings and thoughts? Are you being asked already for some of these big brands who have their own worlds, decentralization world and others? What do you think the future is for that?
Again, it's based on the demand from our clients, and we've done a big music festival that Coca-Cola was the title sponsor for, and we shot the main stage of that with Vive Latino, which is like the rock Coachella of Mexico.
Okay.
And we shot the main stage in VR. We actually brought in Muse's video director, who's like, literally a member of the band. And that was available as you could 360 stream it on YouTube, but you could also go into a Best Buy anywhere in the country and put on the headsets and have this immersive experience. And speaking of Boston, we did actually the very first AR live stream was the commemoration of the Apollo launch, like 50th anniversary down to the actual minute, this big activation at the JFK Memorial Library, and kind of this was this interactive experience where you could have your phone, you could recreate the rocket launching and follow its trajectory. And we had this live broadcast with really influencers who were either sci-fi or space or kind of tech enthusiasts, and really a celebration of that experience. And today certainly there are Roblox types of experiences happening across the music ecosystem. I think that's going to become a lot more prevalent and popular. I think a lot of times it's do the devices get out there to the general public, and that's where you see these things start to take off. And I think the money that platforms like Meta are putting into XR and AR experiences, hopefully it's going to be widely adopted.
Yeah, I mean, and I was thinking, like, over COVID, was that kind of an uptick for you? I mean, what are you one of the industries that kind of blossomed more because of the, limited ability to go to real shows? And do you think that helped kind of where we're at today, or not really? It was just kind of already progressing the same.
So the pandemic was a very interesting inflection point in our industry, and I've had my company for 13 years. I said I've been in it for 20. It's only like 21 years old, I think. Maybe even it's a very short lifestyle. In some ways, it's a long trajectory. In other ways, it's still a brand new concept. And what I found in the pandemic was it became the hottest topic you could imagine. And it did a couple things. One, it created a global, worldwide user adoption. You had, grandparents had to Zoom with their families. Every child had to do distance learning with their school.
Yeah.
I think everybody at work was on some form of, Zoom or Teams or, whatever platform. And definitely the music business, I think, drove that industry because largely the artists were sequestered in their homes for those 18 to 24 months and would welcome you in, and they would perform and do these shows and as in their studios or, literally in their houses. And we, we got involved and started partnering with the National Independent Venue Association, which are the 3,000 independent music halls in the United States, which were the first businesses to close and last businesses to open. They still had to pay their rent and their employees and their utilities. And we got involved in helping them create a relief strategy with the government and powered a festival. We went and shot 24 bands in 36 of these venues, and some were superstars who were playing at the clubs that they became famous in. So we did the Roots at the Apollo, or Miley Cyrus at the Whiskey, a couple shows at the Foo Fighters at the Troubadour, and that became this 3-day festival on YouTube that was live hosted by Reggie Watts, and people could donate and support the Relief Act, and that eventually got approved by Congress. So it was interesting. That's the type of work that we did. It was explosive, and we probably had a handful of competitors pre-pandemic, and then venture capital money just started to fly into our space, and there were upwards of 200 companies actively trying to pull this off and do this and really make it a pay-per-view experience, which, I don't think the industry certainly couldn't support that many companies, and it certainly didn't. And it ended up really being one that was Veeps, which is run by the Madden brothers, who were in Good Charlotte, that was bought by Live Nation. So on the one hand, a lot of money came into the space, but I think overall awareness just skyrocketed, and certainly user behavior did too. So it's leveled off now. But now what's happening is, if you follow Netflix, they are curating a pretty extensive portfolio of live content. I think it started with Tom Brady roast and Dave Chappelle, comedy show, and Chris Rock. And now it's the WWE on a weekly basis. They do the NFL games now on Christmas. And I think they're cutting a deal to open the Major League Baseball season next year. And there's talk of what I think is going to happen is you're going to see competition from Amazon, who just did the final night of Bad Bunny's residency in Puerto Rico and set a viewing record across Amazon Music and Twitch. Apple, I think, is going to start curating more music. Hulu has just done a couple of music festivals. And the minute the ink was dry on Skydance buying Paramount, they went out and bought the UFC rights for the next 7 years. So now there's, I think, this real renaissance of live content, and people see it as a way to engage consumers, connect with them, but also sell advertising. The Mike Tyson fight, the ad inventory was sold out. Same with those NFL games. So it's also proving to be a revenue generator because there's only so many subscriptions that these platforms are going to pick up. So it's a very fascinating, interesting time. But you raised a great point. It went through this massive inflection and this weird period with the pandemic, and now it's leveled out. And now you're seeing these professional platforms seeing the value of live content. I think they're going to curate extensively and build these strategies and these kind of content portfolios of live video.
Well, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, hadn't heard about all that. And it's really interesting. And I do a lot of digital advertising. I wrote a book about it with Forbes. And I think, I always hear clients asking, oh, why does, Disney now have their own channel and why everything used to be under Amazon? And it's like, well, it's for the data. That's what they're looking for. Like data is king. And this different niche audiences that they're going to be able to attract. And just another reason that someone's going to have a subscription to Paramount where maybe they wouldn't have before. Right, and it's, this new vertical and the data that we're gonna acquire from it, I think is gonna be really very interesting for the future, you're right, of advertising. What do you think is gonna happen? What are people's expectations now as we move toward a world of, where the consumer is waiting for engagement, they're looking for more opportunities to connect and the authentic kind of connection, that authentic connection. What do you think is these big brands, what is the benchmark of where they're gonna have to be able to get their audience to really say, yeah, it's worth my time and I want to pull the content down.
I think in the live world, it certainly starts with the content. And there's one thing that I have taken away from all the years of doing this is consumers or people or viewers, however you want to classify them, they desire these collaborative, participatory experiences. And, certainly having spent time inside of one of the biggest promoters in AEG and watching the growth trajectory of Coachella, or even, Lollapalooza, which we initially were live streaming that experience out of their tentpole out of Chicago. And the promoter looked at the data and, we report back, here's where people are watching from. Here are the devices that they're using. Here's how long they're watching. They were able to make some really intelligent decisions and say, wow, we have an audience all over the country. And today, Lollapaloozas are in Argentina, Chile, Brazil, Stockholm, Paris, and I think Berlin. And a lot of that was based on, wow, our viewing audience is everywhere, or in these strategic regions. Let's focus on them. But also when it comes to authenticity, the great, I think remainder of authenticity is live. You can't stop and do and retake and reshoot. It's happening at the moment. And if you remember the Grammys a couple years ago, Adele was doing this big solo performance on this piano. She got about 20, 30 seconds into it and said, can I stop? I want to restart this. I think there was some malfunction with the piano. There was something that fell onto one of the chords, and everyone kind of paused, and she went in, redid the song and killed it. And it was this kind of truly authentic moment. And if anything came out of the pandemic, it was, I'm watching A-list music superstars performing on their guitar, and their husband or wife walks through the background, or their baby makes a noise, or their pet comes through. So live to me, and certainly to what I've witnessed in the audience and seeing in the chat, the polling and the reactions and the comments, they want to know, like, is this truly live? It's not a play out re-recorded experience. And the other thing to consider is you can interact with the audience in real time. Right? You can say, oh, so and so has so and so in Detroit has a question. Let me a great point. Let me answer that. Or hey, someone just joined from Miami, or we're going to bring in another participant in this call as well, or part of the live stream. So to me, it remains, and I've even had advertising people tell me, the only true bastion of authenticity in the world of AI is going to be live, because you can't, quote, replicate it or machine drive it.
Fake it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you brought up a good point because I have a daughter, she's 11, and the hot thing now in sixth grade is the collabs. So it's like, oh, mom, like, there's a collab with, the Touchland, the hand sanitizer, and Crocs. They collabed, and now we had to go, of course, buy the little thing that you snap to your backpack that has the collab. But it seems like all these brands, and that's what the kids are looking for. It's like, that their favorite things and bands and other different types of brands that can see them kind of becoming synergistic. And, it seems like that's kind of happening in the music scene too.
Well, 100%. I think Cardi B's record she just put out has multiple collabs in it, and we did a project with her last year where uh, she has a song Bongos with Megan Thee Stallion, and they wanted to come together and promote this release, but Cardi was on New York and Megan was in LA. So we created this split screen experience. And the two of them had this kind of cool 20, 30-minute interaction before they introduced the video. And last Monday night, we also helped Doja Cat premiere her new music video, Stranger, for her new record, which also features some other collaborations. And we also see it in the commerce world, right? You know, Rihanna has a cosmetic line, or so and so has a different line. So those are collabs in and of themselves as well, where they're now becoming entrepreneurs and they're, you know, bringing cool products to these consumers as well, and they're reacting, I would say, very positively to.
Absolutely. So we have to ask the question, how is AI? How are you using it in live streaming? And, what do you think the future, how will it change what we're doing, or will it?
It's a great question. You know, our use cases have been in certainly in captioning. So, you know, automated in, you know, converting. We've done like automotive press reveals for a company like Hyundai, and we'll use technology to auto detect where the viewer are. They coming from Latin America? So we'll caption in Spanish. Are they coming from Korea? Or you know, certainly Mandarin's a little tricky, a little more complex, but that's certainly been a helpful piece in terms of what we're doing. I think, you know, my teams are always looking at in the workflows. You know, how can we use more automated intelligence? But at the end of the day, you know, we're setting up empowering experiences using, you know, people, frankly, you know, crew members. There has been a shift towards automating, you know, using robotic cameras, which are now becoming much higher in quality. We're paying a lot of attention to that. We just at this Samsung I should say Qualcomm is a client of ours. We were enabling and live streaming content on Samsung S25 mobile handsets, and the quality was breathtaking. And I never thought I'd see that day where, you know, we're using a beautiful Sony or Blackmagic cameras with cinematic lenses in all of the shows that we do. But this was, you know, I would say comparable, hot, super great quality, given it was you know, an enterprise, you know, keynote or fireside chat, not a, you know, not a Miley
360.
Cyrus concert.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
But I think it's early. It's early for AI in my space, in our industry, but certainly things like captions and workflows, it's becoming more prevalent.
Yeah. So what recommendations can you give to our listeners who, they don't have the big budgets, but how can they start to incorporate live streaming into, their media mix to be effective?
Well, the good news is that most of the platforms now are completely optimized for live video. Even, you know, LinkedIn, who's a largely an enterprise, you know, platform. So there's all kinds of capabilities there, you know, Instagram, et cetera. I've seen brands who don't have massive budgets have just as equal success working with, I'll say, you know, emerging music artists. So they're not hiring Jay-Z, Madonna, and Coldplay, but these and music shows are happening all over. You could be a local Nissan dealer and you want to promote your footprint in the greater Denver area. I think you could partner with one of those clubs. And most of venues now today have installed some sort of internet video and audio infrastructure. And we'll go in and look at that. If we need to supplement it and help it out, we can. But there are great ways to take anything that you're doing if you add streaming to it. If you're everyone's market, no matter, I don't care who they are, they're doing some sort of experiential marketing out there in the world. Like they're popping up at a kid's soccer game or a clothing launch.
Or even like a sampling, I do a lot of retail, like when you go to a grocery store and you're doing like a live sample of a new product, that could be considered something that you might live stream it.
Right. And converting that into a stream, you're now making it into you know, literally a national or an international experience. And in the music business, I've seen promoters who were running music festivals in a certain city realize that they're now, when you discover that live stream experience, and it's not just music, it's art, food, culture, learning, causes, etc. That now becomes a destination for me if I'm living in Paris and I want to go to the US. I'm going to book a trip to New York or Boston and see you know, a 3-day music festival and make that part of it could even be the focus of my trip. So, large or small, and the cost to do this now is at an all-time low. I mentioned the Samsung, phones. Those I never thought I'd see that day getting that type of quality. But now there's never a better time to do it. Again, the also the footprint to pull things off. The cameras are so much smaller. I even watched the last Coachella. There was the artist Rosalia was on stage holding a camera and then handing it off to her dancers and coming. And that was actually part of the
That is so cool. Like
yeah.
a selfie stick, kind of, yeah.
Yeah. Really
Yeah.
fascinating. And it was integrated into the workflow. It wasn't the only view of the stage, but you get to see it kind of, it was, you really almost were on the stage. And that's the beauty of streaming is it's never the substitute for physically being there, but it's the next best thing.
It is, and I think that's really a good point because then you can, as a business owner and or a promoter, as a for instance, having to commit to that. Oh, are we going to go to Paris? Well, you can live stream and then see what the viewership was, and now either you're going to go there and do a show, or you're going to target them for next year with certain media buys online for packages, a Paris package to Coachella, because we know who they are and we know more about them than ever before.
Right.
Yeah, that's really cool. So, what are you most looking forward to, in the industry? Is there anything coming that's new that we're looking for? Or looking
Yes, the world of e-commerce live streaming is about to explode here in the West. In China, this is a $600 billion business, and it is now becoming really the preference for anybody literally under the age of 40. I think this year, 2.77 billion people will buy something online, which is over a third of the global population. And my business, we've recently become certified as a TikTok shop agency, and TikTok shop is certainly leading the space. They've been in the U.S. as a shop company for 2 years, and they'll hit about $17 billion this year just in the U.S. And these are, they're collaborative, participatory, entertainment centric live streams that feature products, and they're interactive. So you can ask a question, hey, does that come in blue? Is the waistband elastic? Can you hold it up this way? Maybe switch to the second camera and see from that perspective. That's going to be a massive business here. And it won't just be TikTok. I think it's certainly going to be Amazon and others. But I've even seen Madison Ave Titans predict that the retail business within the next 5 years the retail shops will become Monday through Friday studios where the employees and the creators will be live streaming and selling product inventory, and then on the weekend convert back to traditional retail. And it's also to help, the costs, obviously retail costs are through the roof, and
yeah.
there's at post pandemic now, it's hard to figure all that out, but and it's also a massive discovery tool. But I think it's 58% of millennials have purchased this way, and 80% of Gen Z have already adopted it as a purchase behavior. So, and it's still, again, in this part of the world, early in that conversation, but that's going to become a real fascinating, growth business. And, my business, I'm still going to do the traditional work that we do in music, media, and entertainment and working with brands. But also now the brands are saying to us, it's great that we're doing this because we're reaching people, but we now need to take it to another level and have some sort of a call to action or conversion.
Like buy
And
that sweater that he's wearing.
right, but if you buy it now, you're watching, you're going to get it for 25% off and with no shipping fee, and that's an incredible deal you don't want to pass up. And the conversion rate of these shows is 30%. Traditional e-commerce is 2 to 3%. So you're getting a
Those like
massive.
Pinterest numbers. Like if you pin it, you buy it. That
Yeah.
kind. Yeah, that's gonna be incredible.
Yeah, and we just did, we kind of combined our two worlds. 3 weeks ago, we did a show for the artist Leve, who is this Gen Z sensation. She's this Icelandic Chinese jazz artist who has sold out her tour. She's doing 2 nights at the Crypto.com Arena in LA, sold out 2 nights at Madison Square Garden. I think she sold out Red Rocks. She released her record on Friday. We did a live concert on TikTok on Sunday evening as the sun set in downtown LA with her sponsor involved, which was Fiji Water. But during the broadcast, she was selling through her TikTok shop copies, live vinyl, signed vinyl and signed CDs, and that inventory sold out before her show. That's where those two worlds really, really came together.
Interesting.
But that is the future. I think that's an exciting space, in our industry. And combined with what I mentioned earlier with, Netflix kind of driving big time portfolio of live content, I think it's an interesting world where now all these platforms are going to be bringing more live content, but you've also got this commerce business that's going to run in parallel. And I think they're going to cross connect and merge. And hopefully we're playing, betting right and saying we want to be in the middle of that.
I definitely think that's the future, and it makes a lot of sense because it's been a couple years now that me and my mom, the weekend we'll go to the mall with my daughter, and it's empty. The restaurants are busy, and those small little boutiques seem to still be busy. It's really the big retailers, and you just wonder how's this going to make it, right? People are, and it's just that old way of buying things, right? And really not very efficient. So I could definitely see this being an amazing shift of during the day that they're filming and then they don't stock or they even create. It's like the cut and sew when you order. Right. So it's like here's the samples, we're doing models, we're doing answering questions, people order, and then they come in on a Wednesday or sorry, like the weekend and try it on and take it home.
I think you just nailed it. I think it's two things. It's one, I'm either going to buy it watching that live stream, or I'm going to discover it and then go to the retailer that have a relationship with, or I like, or that I know. It's one of the two. So there's no downside. It's either you're either going to sell something, or you're going to have a discovery moment and bring people into your retail footprint. It's also a massive opportunity for direct to consumer brands. Like you always see the Shark Tank. Are you getting proper placement in the big box retailers? You don't really need to do that anymore. You can now, I mean, there's a hashtag TikTok, maybe buy it. It's just, I think it's like 17 billion usages of that hashtag. And I know I've discovered pretty, things I didn't think existed, how to clean my dryer vent, right? There's a device that can get in there and do that versus me calling a technician and paying a ton of money to do that, or, uh, you know, uh, all kinds of things. The device, the things you lay between your seats in your car that the change won't fall through, or your phone won't. Yeah, those types of
Yeah,
things.
so fancy. Well, I think it's the same thing as like what we're seeing with the print on demand industry surge.
Yeah.
No longer do you have to, commit to all the swag materials and have to warehouse them, have to ship them. It's like, no, you can have an unlimited shopping cart. I have it on both of my books, and we're doing it for clients now, and little trees, and I mean all kinds of things, that you just put the logo on, and then someone wants to buy it, you can pick your markup, and then they ship it directly to them, and you make a commission. There's like no risk, high reward, and that's I think as we go toward reducing waste just overall, this is
Yeah.
one of the best ways to do that. Right, where we're not gonna. I think that the trickle down will be that we won't have these, big warehouses like what do they call it, TJ Maxx or the secondhand discount stores, right? Because the retailers, when nothing sells, they dump it all to the Nordstrom racks. So that could be the next thing on the chopping block if they really get it right. They're not going to be making things people don't want to buy. They're going to be making samples, live streaming it, seeing what the impact is, seeing what the buy pattern are, shipping it direct, cutting it and shipping it direct. And that feedback loop is going to be much more efficient. Oh, and now I don't hear you, which is weird.
Sorry, I think a great point. Reducing waste, that's top of mind, especially with the younger consumers. And any way you can get ahead of that and address that is a big win.
Yeah. Well, this has been very exciting. So tell me, are you doing any live streaming? How can people get a hold of you and keep in touch with what you're doing?
Our website is Bulldog DM. It's Bulldog D as in David, M as in Mary. It contains all the things that we've done, our services, et cetera. I'm present on platforms like LinkedIn for sure. And we've been doing this a long time, but we also fully understand that for a lot of people, it might be a new arena or a new space to step into. Certainly, e-commerce is top of mind, I think, with a lot of brands or even small business owners. And that's we went. It's a process to become certified in terms of TikTok Shop, but we've also learned quite a bit along the way. And in general, we want to be helpful to people. So don't be shy. If people have questions they want to pose to us. I think you brought up, yeah, we do work with Apple and Netflix and Samsung and AT&T, but we also work with smaller, mid-sized businesses as well. And we're always, happy to provide some knowledge transfer and education, and that's easy for us to do, and that's something we want to drive the industry forward, drive awareness, and drive adoption. So we're very accessible.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much for being here and sharing this knowledge with us. And to all my fans, please join me next week as I interview another industry expert in a topic to help you succeed on and offline. Big mahalo to all my subscribers. We just reached over 40,000 YouTube subscribers. That's because of you and your aloha. So continue to share the content, continue to like it so that we can attract more wonderful guests like John here. And I will see you next week in the Pixels. Aloha. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Covert Code Podcast. If you're loving the insights we share here, don't forget to follow us on your favorite podcast platform and leave a review. Your support helps us reach more digital innovators like you. Share this episode with your friends and colleagues on social media and help spread the word. And if you're in the solar space or just curious about where clean energy is headed, I'm thrilled to announce my brand new podcast, The Solar Coaster. This show digs into the real stories, trends, and challenges of the solar industry, with bold conversations and powerful takeaways you won't hear anywhere else. Follow the Solar Coaster now so you don't miss a single episode. Thanks for tuning in. See you in the pixels. Aloha.